start. Some people are still coming on, but okay, here we go. 1 second. People are telling me that they're coming late. Okay, great. So here we are. We're going to get started. There's still a couple of board members, I think, that may be missing or coming on a bit late. So we'll just take roll and then add them in as they arrive. At this moment, based on the text I'm getting right now, there might be one that's still not here. Okay. So here we go. We're going to call the meeting to order at 7:18 p.m. And Erica, will you please call roll?
Yes, ma'am. Giselle Ragusa.
Here.
Julie Chetney.
Here.
Bill Stewart.
Here.
Mary Soldato.
Here.
Joseph Wong.
Here.
Bruce Cruikshank.
I haven't heard from Bruce, Erica.
Okay, so. Me either. Natalie Weber. No. Okay, give me 1 second. I gotta make Jose host.
Sure. I think Natalie texted me saying she might be a few minutes late this evening.
Okay. Tina Wright. Tina's been under the weather. She asked her service coordinator to let me know that she was gonna miss today.
Okay.
Trish Gonzalez.
Here.
Hey, Trish.
Hello.
Freddie Subramanian.
Here.
Susan Strobel.
Present.
Jay Dixit.
Present.
Wendy Lai.
She's running a little bit late. She told me earlier this evening.
Okay, I'll keep an eye out for her.
Yeah.
Karen Sarsa Diaz.
She's also running a little bit late. She just texted. Okay. That was one of the people that was texting me.
Okay, and Richard Centeno.
I'm here.
Okay, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we'll keep an eye out for those individuals that texted to say they were running a tiny bit late. Our first agenda item is to review the agenda. As you can see, we have a rather packed agenda. We've got some contracts that need approval. We have a few updates. And then we have a board training on understanding needs, resources, and services for addressing mental health. And we have actually 4 presenters for this evening. And then, as I mentioned, we do have a closed session after our final announcements, in which board members only will be present with a couple of the regional center staff. Is there any changes? Are there any changes to the agenda? I actually have one minor change just because it just happened this evening. It's just a minor addition. The Committee for Individuals Served and Their Families has been having these fabulous presentations. One was this evening. Thank you, Tim, for that. But there are 2 presentations during March and April that I'd like Preeti, when the time comes later in the agenda, to announce, so that if individuals on the board or even community members are interested in attending that meeting, which just is precursors this meeting at 6 p.m. each month, we want to make sure you have the opportunity. And Tim also has offered to share his slide deck so that all board members and community members can have the slide deck for electronic verification information associated with DDS, et cetera, provided really useful information at tonight's meeting. We're not having committee reports generally tonight because we do have a training, but we do have some pressing items that we need to just briefly address. Any other changes to the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, we will move on to our next item, which is review of the minutes for January 25th, 2023. There's an error on the agenda, by the way, Erica. It should say 2023. I just realized the date is wrong, so that's fine, but that's on the agenda. You have the meeting minutes in your packet. So do I have any discussions or changes to the minutes, the draft minutes? And again, the meeting minutes also have 2022, Erica. We can change that to 2023. That would be very helpful. Any other comments or changes to the minutes? Hearing or seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the minutes as mildly amended to reflect the accurate year?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes with the slate revision.
Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Preeti. Any other discussion of the minutes? Okay, let's go to a vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, please say aye or use your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any oppositions to the minutes? Any abstention to the minutes? And remember, if you weren't here last month, you need to abstain. Hearing none, motion carries. Minutes are approved. Thank you, everybody. The next agenda item is public input. I believe we have two community members who wish to provide public input. The first community member is Mr. Carl Argila. So Carl, the floor is yours.
Great. Can I do an audio check? Are you hearing me?
We are hearing you. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you for the opportunity to make a few comments to the board this evening again. As you know, my name is Carl Argila. I am the father of Kevin Argila, an intellectually disabled deaf client of the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. And as usual, tonight's San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center board meeting, including my comments, are being recorded under the provisions of the Bagley-Keene Act and will be posted for public review on my blog at www.sgprc.net. And I have put that in chat together with a notice of action that I will be making reference to. As board is aware, last December 9th, I met with Dr. Weller to discuss a number of issues related to our family's relationship with the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. I asked Dr. Weller to terminate this agency's conservatorship of my son, Kevin Argila. And I also asked Dr. Weller to rescind a notice of action issued by the former executive director, refusing to hire a deaf service coordinator for my son. I've posted a copy of that notice of action in chat, so it should be available for everyone to reference. Yesterday, I received a letter from Dr. Weller in response to the meeting of December 9th. I had hoped that Dr. Weller would be an agent for change at the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center, that he would be a problem solver rather than an apologist. That didn't happen. Dr. Weller's letter portrays the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center's past actions as compliant with regulations and in the best interest of its clients. Even when Dr. Weller cites Title 17, he does so incorrectly where it doesn't apply. And also, Dr. Weller fails to acknowledge that there is a class action lawsuit against the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center, DDS, on behalf of deaf clients, including my children. I hope perhaps today we'll hear more about that class action lawsuit and the actions being taken by the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. So in the end, board, no problems have been solved, and sadly, the only thing I can do is continue to bring to the attention of this board the violations of the Lanterman Act. Perhaps this will help, but it's no substitute for a problem-solving executive director. Nevertheless, I will do what I can to continue to support my children so that they can have full lives as deaf persons receiving services from the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. Finally, board, I am requesting that the official minutes of this board meeting accurately state my comments, and that I am requesting that the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center terminate their conservatorship of my son, Kevin Argila. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much, Carl. The next person who has requested to provide public input is Albert Feliciano. from the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. The floor is yours, Albert.
Thank you, President Ragusa. Good evening, everyone, committee members, St. Gabriel Pomona Regional Center staff, and community members. My name is Albert Feliciano, and I'm an advocate with the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. And I do have a few announcements, so please bear with me on this one. The first announcement is that SCDD LA office continues to hold statewide trainings every Monday. These are reoccurring trainings on Mondays at 10 a.m. The next meeting is scheduled for February the 27th, so that's this coming Monday. And I'll be dropping the flyers in the chat, and then I'll be sending those to Erica to include in the materials for today's training. These meetings are open to anyone. These trainings, should I say, are open to anyone. They're being offered statewide, so anyone across the state is able to sign in and take these trainings. The second announcement is that SCDD continues to provide the self-determination program orientation. These orientations are now being provided in 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Vietnamese. For more information and to view the calendar, I will be dropping in the chat the link of where any family member or parents or individuals served by the regional center can sign up for these orientations. At the completion of the orientation, attendees or participants will receive a certificate of completion, which can be presented to the regional center. And the third announcement is that SCDD facilitates a monthly IF roundtable, independent facilitator roundtable meeting for independent facilitators in LA County. If there's any IFs in this meeting today, or if Regional Center knows of IFs that may be interested in attending this monthly roundtable meeting, I'll be providing my email address in the chat. If there's any IFs here, just send me an email, and I'll be more than happy to add you to the roundtable. I will also be finalizing an SCDD IF list for LA County IFs, independent facilitators. That's in the works right now. It's not completed yet. It's being updated. So once that's completed, I'll be more than happy to share that with the regional center, and you may distribute that to any families that are looking for IFs. So this is a list of independent facilitators in LA County, but it's now expanding to independent facilitators statewide. And that's it on my part. Thank you, President Ragusa, for this time.
Thank you so much, Albert, and much appreciation to SCDD for all of the trainings and efforts they do to help individuals served in their families, especially as it relates to SDP most recently, because that is exciting but challenging at times. So really appreciate that. Great.
Thank you.
Okay. Next agenda item is contracts. We have several contracts, all of which the board executive finance committee has reviewed and recommended that they be forwarded to the full board for review and approval. They're all in your information packet on the drive, and Tim Travis is going to go through them briefly for you all, and we will go through one at a time and then discuss and vote on those one after the other. Does that make sense, Tim?
Yes, thank you.
So.
All right, well, thank you so much. Good evening, board members, community members, DDS staff, service providers, and agency staff. As Dr. Ragusa mentioned, I'd like to present 3 contracts that are in your packet, one at a time for your consideration. The first contract is for Integrated Community Options Incorporated, or ICO, for transportation services. The transportation services are in support or go along with their community-based behavior management day programs that they provide to individuals that live in our northwestern portion of our service area. ICO has been providing these services for 22 years and currently serves 47 individuals with San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center. Transportation is provided via vans, and due to their location, again, in that northwestern portion of our service area, they also provide services and supports to individuals from Frank D. Lanterman Regional Center, but are not part of this particular contract. So consistent with approval to move forward this contract by the Executive Finance Committee, I would like to submit it to the full board for your approval.
Thank you, Tim. Do we have any questions related to the ICO contract that Tim just presented, ICO North, or comments?
Yeah, I do. I have a question.
Yes.
Sure.
What do they do? Tell us something about that.
Yeah, so ICO provides community-based behavior management day program services. Because these services occur in community, they're not at a fixed location or what we call center-based. The transportation services and supports accompany that day program service as they go around in the community, accessing different sites, vocational sites, volunteer sites, accessing different areas within the community. Parks, libraries, other places that other individuals have access to. They do serve individuals with a wide range of behaviors, and they also have supported quite a few individuals that have come from the state developmental centers and moved into the community. And again, they have been providing services for 22 years, soon to celebrate their 23rd year.
Okay.
Thank you, Bruce, for that question, and Tim for the detailed explanation. Any other comments or questions related to ICO North contract? Hearing none. Do I have a motion to approve the contract as presented?
I'll approve it.
You'll move to approve it, Mary? Thank you. Do I have a
Yes.
second? Thank you, Mary. Do I have a second? Trish?
I'll make that second motion.
Thank you so very much. Any more discussion of that contract before we move to a vote? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of approving the contract from ICO North, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Is there any opposition to that contract's approval? Any abstentions? Thank you, Susan. I see your hand. Great. All right. Thank you. Motion carries. Next contract is People's Care Montellano. Tim?
Yes, so the second contract is for Specialized Residential Montellano through People's Care Los Angeles for specialized residential services. Individuals served in this specialized residential facility are adults ages 18 and older. The adults shall be current clients of the regional center diagnosed with a developmental disability or may have a co-occurring mental health diagnosis. People's Care submitted a proposal in response to SGPRC's request for proposal for the development of the specialized residential facility for adults as part of the community placement plan from fiscal year 2011 to 2012. To develop this resource for people that were moving from Fairview, Porterville, and Canyon Springs developmental centers. The residential home is located in Hacienda Heights and is licensed by the Department of Social Services Community Care Licensing Division and has been supporting individuals for almost 9 years. The home currently provides services to 4 individuals, and since this is a specialized home, the provider is required to provide an enriched participant to staff ratio, as well as also enhanced consultant services, and staff are required to have additional training and experience with which to provide supports to the people that live in the home. So again, consistent with approval to move forward this contract by the Executive Finance Committee, I'd like to submit it to the full board for your approval.
Thank you, Tim. Do we have any questions or comment associated with People's Care Montellano's contract? Hearing and seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the contract as presented?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Bill. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Julie. Any other discussion associated with the contract?
The motion.
Thank you, Richard. We'll let you move on the next one if it's ready for approval as well. Okay, all those in favor of approving that contract as presented, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Any opposition to that contract?
Aye.
Do you oppose or you're not?
I just oppose, Gigi.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you, Richard. Any abstentions to that contract? Thank you, Susan. I see your hand. Motion carries. Moving on to the final contract for the evening.
Yes, the last contract is for reliable transportation services. Reliable Transportation Services has been providing transportation services to individuals supported by the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center for 15 years. They provide door-to-door services for individuals to and from their home to day programs within our service area. Reliable does transport to our entire service area. However, at the moment, they have been mostly focusing on transporting individuals in the southwestern portion of our service area, which is closer to their depot in South El Monte. They are one of our smaller transportation providers, again, based on the number of individuals that they serve on a day-to-day basis. Some of their individuals that they transport do use assisted devices like wheelchairs, and they currently serve 60 individuals. And with the state of emergency that we are anticipating, that is going to be ending, we are anticipating that more individuals will be requesting transportation services, with which Reliable would be given an opportunity to provide that service. So, consistent with approval to move forward this contract by the Executive Finance Committee, I'd like to submit to the full board for your approval.
Do we have any questions or comments for the reliable transportation contract? Hearing and seeing none. Do I have a motion to approve this contract? Richard, you want to do that one?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so moved by Richard. Do I have a second?
I'll
second.
Thank you, Karen. Any other comments or discussion associated with the contract before we move to vote? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor of approving the contract as presented, please say aye or raise your hand or both. Aye.
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 Is there any opposition to that contract? Any abstention to the contract? Thank you, Susan. Motion carries. Contracts are all three approved. We have a brief update now from Social Rec Grants and Technology Lending Library. This was added to the agenda by the Executive Finance Committee as an important update. I'm not certain who's going to be providing that. Jesse, can you let me know that update?
Absolutely. The updates I have, good evening, committee members. And Tim, you can help me out with this one as well. I believe where we left off with this is that all of the 12 requests for proposals have been submitted to the department, and we have not heard back yet. But we did get those submissions up to the DDS. I don't know the anticipated timeline yet. Tim, do we have that available?
Yeah, so they were required to be submitted to the department before the end of January. So to your point, we did submit all of them up to the department for the review. They are anticipating hopefully getting word back to us at the beginning of March. And then we would have until the end of March to enter into a service agreement with those identified service providers. I did, at the request of the Vendor Advisory Committee, I did notify all of the people that had submitted proposals that we did receive them and that they had been forwarded on to the department for their review.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
The other quick update is just announcing our capacity to have technology available for the community. There's been significant supports around getting for both early start, early intervention, and also for individuals in the Lanterman program to have access to devices, to access services. And so there's been a lot of good work in that area. So we want to keep everybody updated. Team, anything else you want to add in regards to technology? Okay, just quick updates so everybody to be aware.
Before we go on to your report, Jesse, I'd like Preeti to announce the trainings that the Committee for Individuals Served and Their Family will have during March and April. Can you briefly do that for us, please, Preeti, and provide the dates? They precurse this meeting every month.
Sure, Gigi. Good evening, board. And the first training is March 22nd, 2023, and that will be new fair hearing approvals, and on April 6th, 2023 training approaches, strategies for service coordinators, and I encourage all or most board members to attend either both or at least one of these trainings.
Thank you so very much, Treaty, and a treaty. My goodness, treaty. I'm not doing a treaty this evening, I promise. And I'm really excited about those trainings, and I encourage community members as well. All of our meetings are public unless they're closed session, and so those training meetings are really, really valuable. So feel free, and we hope that you will attend them. Speaking of training, we do have a training this evening. I also wanted to recognize the fact that we've got a lot of our vendor advisory committee members here this evening, in addition to community members, interpreters, staff, etc. And I'm really excited to have their presence. So thank you so much, VAC members, for attending this month, in addition to last month. Really get excited when we know that you're so interested that you want to take some time out of your busy schedule to come to the board meeting. So thank you for that. And thank you, Susan, for leading that effort. All right. So the next agenda item is the executive director's report. This will be a brief report because we've got quite a training that's going to take about an hour. So Jesse, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, committee, board members. I will make sure I go streamlined here. I'm going to share my screen for everybody. And let's see. Can everybody see my report okay? Okay. I'm going to go through this. So for this evening, I want to start with a few state and local updates. The state of emergency is still set to end in 6 days on February 28th. So that state of emergency will be ending, which we've been preparing for as a system. The other update I have for everybody is there is a request for applications that have been released through the county behavioral health system. In DDS, the department is seeking for regional centers. This is applicable to regional centers to help support individuals that either have or are at risk with serious mental health. It's optional for regional centers to apply for a project. The applications are due March 17th. Hortensia and her team are reviewing our needs and seeing if this is something that we can pursue and if we have resources to pursue. And other regional centers are collaborating with each other to see if maybe there could be some joint projects in regards to this funding that's available. Really important. It's going to, I think, a nice segue into our mental health training for this evening. So I just want everybody to know that this is available. And I saw in the chat that there was a flyer, I believe, put in there. But a shout out to Sal and his team. Done a great job about putting together our purchase of service meetings, several meetings coming up for 2023. And I highlighted those below. These meetings are critical, so please encourage attendance. It's going to highlight our expenditures, how we're spending money as a regional center by age, race, ethnicity, language, disability, and where people reside. And also, we're going to highlight the efforts we've been doing to serve our diverse communities. And it allows for the community to give feedback on how this regional center can make improvements. So there's a lot of platforms. I won't go through all of them, but I just want to highlight the thought that Sal and his team has put together around making sure we're reaching all of our communities and getting information out. So we do have that available. We're going to continue to promote these meetings. And our flyer and our data has been uploaded onto the Department of Developmental Centers website. And you can also access it through our website as well. Two legislations I want to cover for this evening. One is AB 649. This is an exciting one for our service system. If this passes, and this bill would ultimately remove the generic service appeal mandate. So we know with regional centers, there is a responsibility to ensure that we're exhausting those generic resources. And sometimes that can become a barrier to services. So ARCA is sponsoring and supporting this bill. And I want to make sure that we're tracking this one carefully because it could help with service access and equity. So if you want more information on this bill, we can get that made available as well. But ARCA is in support. The other bill, you might have some information I saw this come through to share this information. There is also new legislation being proposed called the Disability Equity and Accountability Act, AB 1147. And I highlighted the framework about our service system. It's very much aligned with oversight, accountability, and transparency within our system. And so within the areas, we're looking at eliminating disparities, providing access to services, big when you think about our system where it's trying to move towards, increasing accountability, consistency across regional centers, transparency, and also looking at regional center board governance. So there's a lot of areas outlined in this bill, along with several measures. There's one in here talking about how DDS, if this does go through, would do an evaluation on how regional centers are performing in a lot of different areas that are listed here. And that would occur if it did pass to establish standards and metrics by 2024. So lots of areas in there that we need to be looking at, in addition to the Little Hoover Commission and all of the work being done in the community to make proposals to improve our service system. So those are two major bills. And I do want to say the board, we were able to, Erica dropped it into the materials this evening, so you can have access to this as well. Try to stay within my 10 minutes here. We do have the directives that have been extended until the end of the month that are going to sunset with the state of emergency ending. So that is on our website as well if you want more information. We covered in detail tonight at our individual family served committee and at our community meetings around coordinated family supports. Just want the board to be aware that there is a new service available, and the service really is tailored for individuals 18 years and older who reside with their families. It's very specific and really aimed at providing support that may not be offered in other service types, to help individuals schedule appointments, to coordinate, to help family members who might have support needs themselves, to coordinate service delivery within the IPP. So that's just a few examples. There's a, Tim did drop the chat information. We might be able to do it here as well. There's a really well done FAQ that really goes into detail, but this is a big one. It's in pilot right now, so we're going to see more information coming out around this. But we want the board to be aware of this new service type, exciting for our community. And we also have in here funding to support compliance, lots of support for the home and community-based service final rule. There's $15 million allocated, not just for us, but across all 21 regional centers to assist providers in coming into compliance with the final rule settings. And regional centers have a directive to submit a plan of how we will utilize our money in partnership with our stakeholders and getting feedback. And Lucina and Tim are taking the lead on that project to be able to assist in that area. So again, more supports as we're seeing for continued funding to support for compliance. And then I'm going to move us into our regional center specific stats. We have, as of January 31st, 424 authorized positions. Breaks down to 404 full-time employees and 20 vacancies. And then you see in the report significant recruiting going on at the center in different areas of operations that are listed here. So we're seeing that grow, which is exciting for us to get resources. As of January 31st, we were serving 15,771 individuals. We're making our way to 16,000. That's a great sign. That means that we're connecting with people, we're serving individuals. And you can just see an example that for the month of January, we received almost 300 new referrals just for early intervention. That is a huge number of individuals that are being assessed. So a big shout out to the clinical team, eligibility, and our admissions department for really trying to get people into our service system. So you have that data in here as well. SDP was covered again this evening earlier, but I want to let everybody know we have almost 100 participants in SDP. So we're trying to get that number to also increase to get more people into the program. And then you also have highlights in here of other areas the specialized unit is working on to help support individuals with self-determination. So you have that available as well. And just a few things on my last page here. Wanted to do a reminder that we are open to the public. You do not need appointments. You're able to walk in. Appointments are helpful with the service coordinator if you want to meet with your service coordinator because they could be out in the field. But if there's anybody that needs services and supports, we are fully open. We have been fully open. And in addition to that, we want to remind our community that we do have an after-hours response team. It's actually a requirement in our contract for regional centers to be available 24/7 in the event of an emergency or a crisis. And so we just want to let everybody know that after 5 p.m., if you call our main line, you will get through to an after-hour service to help get routed to a team that's always on call within the regional center on that. And that's on our website. But periodically, we just want to take this time to remind everybody of this should people need supports and services. And the last two updates are weekly meetings for vendors. We got feedback that our providers might want, some providers is the feedback that came to us, might be ready to reduce the frequency of meetings. During the pandemic, we went to weekly meetings because there were so many changes in our service system. And the feedback was with the state of emergency ending, can we reduce the frequency? So we put together a thoughtful survey. Thank you, Yvonne, for your supports there. And the feedback came back with reducing to one of those meetings that we hold. It was weekly, doing one of those monthly, in addition to our vendor advisory committee. So it creates two different spaces for providers to have contact, which is so critical for us. And so that'll be starting in March. That we'll be meeting with our providers the first Thursday for vendor advisory committee, a formal committee of the board that's always been in place. And then in addition, on that third week, we'll hold our meeting, the regional center with providers. So spaces it out from week 1 to week 3. So we put a lot of thought to there. The feedback has been positive that we've been receiving so far. But that's our update in regards to those meetings. I've been calling them weekly meetings. I'm trying to adjust my language as of March. But those, I guess, monthly meeting is what we'll be saying for the month of March. And then the community meetings, my last update, those occur currently every Tuesday. And we did a very similar survey to see what our community is wanting from us. Do they want us to keep those weekly? Do they want twice a month? Just trying to figure out resources and making sure that we provide information, keep connection, and recalibrate given the fact that we're navigating out of that crisis state of emergency mode. We still have challenges with, we're not out of the clear of what we're navigating as a service system, but we want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our community. So we'll be reviewing those results and hopefully we'll have a response next week on what the survey results say there. And I think that is, if I stay within my time frame, that concludes my report for
Thank you.
this evening.
Thank you, Jesse. I just want to draw attention to a couple of items on the chat. Tim has posted more information about coordinated family supports from the DDS website. Yvonne has also posted information about SGPRC's office hours. You have a couple of questions, Jesse. I'm not sure if you can read them from where you're situated. There's some comments related to one of the bills in eliminating disparities from Richard. And then David Bernstein asked a question about ARCA, whether or not ARCA has taken a position on AB 1147. And then Richard made a couple of more comments related to coordinated family support. So if you want to take a look at those.
Yep, let me go right back up. And first one I see, sorry, I was minimized when I was sharing my screen. So bill has framework on eliminating disparities, providing transparency. The law prohibits regional centers from purchasing by the DDS. Yeah, Richard, I would say absolutely really focused on eliminating disparities and increasing access within our service system based on the language that I reviewed so far. And David, ARCA has not taken a formal position yet on that bill. So we'll be tracking to see their position on that one. They are supporting the, let me go back, let me try to give you the correct number. 649 is endorsed, the one I mentioned earlier on the generic resource appeal.
Thank you, Jesse. And
I hope I got
I think you got them all. There was a question from Albert from SCDD, and Yvonne responded to that question as well. So I think we're cool with the comments associated with the chat. And we are going to move on to our training since it's a busy evening and it's already almost 8 o'clock. So the training is understanding needs, resources, and services for addressing mental health. We have 4 presenters this evening. Steve Mouton is a clinical psychologist policy liaison. We also have staff members Hortensia Tafoya, Daniela Santana, and Salvador Gonzalez. So this is, I'm assuming, a collaborative presentation. So team, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gigi. We'll get started with Dr. Mouton. Well, Dr. Mouton,
I just want to structure this since it's 4 people presenting. If you have questions during the presentation, if you could type them in the chat, and we can respond to them as presenters go from one to the other. If that's challenging for you, you could raise your hand and I'll call on you. It's just difficult for presenters if they're sharing their screen to see hands and chat and everything, and I'll try to help moderate all that during the presentations.
Thank you, Gigi. Dr. Mouton, if you can introduce yourself and start it. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, I'm Dr. Stephen Mouton. I'm a psychologist, policy liaison for the 7 LA County Regional Centers. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now. All right. Hopefully you're seeing that. Okay.
Is actually it's in presenter mode, but it's not. There we go. That's a little bit better. If you want to hit on the slide, you know, the actual present the slide mode, that might be helpful for you. Right now it's in edit mode. There we go. Hit the play function. I think that'll help you. Yeah.
All right. There we go. All right. So I am the policy liaison for the 7 LA County Regional Centers for the LA County-wide MOU. And that MOU outlines the agency roles and responsibilities and the operational agreement for our relationship of the 7 regional centers with Department of Children and Family Services, Department of Probation, and Department of Mental Health. And we meet on a quarterly basis. I have been the chairman of the meeting since about 2000, so about 20 years. And I am also the countywide policy liaison for LA County to the different agencies. And we've structured it so that there is a countywide policy liaison from each of the agencies. And then there are also liaisons from each of the regional centers, along with the information about the executive directors and others. I'm also the policy liaison for the AB 2083 MOU, which is specifically for children and youth in foster care who have experienced severe trauma. And that involves the 7 regional centers, Department of Probation, Public Health, DHS, DCFS, DPSS, DMH, the LA County Office of Education, and the County Superior Court. And with that, this group meets monthly, and I am part of that executive advisory committee and the interagency leadership team. And we're looking at ways of mostly focusing in on the children and youth of foster care, looking at residential placement needs, looking at mental health needs, looking at needs for a variety of individuals that fit with those different groups that are in foster care that have had severe trauma. I'm also a clinical psychologist, and at the San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center, I resolve psychiatric hospitalization, admission and discharge issues. I also deal with mental health service policy issues, and I'm a special liaison to the DDMI wing at College Hospital in Cerritos. So it kind of gives you a little bit about my background. Today we'll be talking about some of the different resources that are available for dealing with a variety of different kinds of mental health issues. Department of Mental Health has a hotline, and we'll be showing that to you in a little bit. as well as a 988 crisis line, which recently became available. Also, an individual who has health care, their health provider has a carve out. Like, for instance, with Loft LA Care, their carve out is Beacon. With Blue Shield, carve out is Magellan. So there are also behavioral carve outs within health provider programs. There's also a behavioral health urgent care center, which is a 23-hour, 59-minute place, similar to a psychiatric hospital, except that it's urgent care, only for up to 23 hours and 59 minutes. I'm also going to be showing you that. There's psychiatric hospitals where an individual can go, and if they meet criteria, and we'll talk about the criteria in just a bit, for 5150, which is a up to 72-hour hold, or 5250 hold. They have a variety of different holds available for people that are having severe mental health and behavioral issues. Additionally, there's the emergency room and medical hospital for individuals that may, for instance, swallow something or have taken a poison. They may end up at the emergency room rather than going directly to a psychiatric hospital. There's also the police, who answers a good deal of the mental health needs. And then also many individuals who have different kinds of mental health or behavioral issues may already have their existing psychiatrists or behaviorists or psychologists that can be accessed. And then Regional Center also has some specific contractors, such as CBIM, and they'll be talking about that in just a little bit. But what is a crisis is a little bit different to different people. So to a family, a crisis is when a family member is out of control, or they're not listening, or they won't comply, or they're having some kind of aggressive behaviors. But for a clinician, looking at it from the police or a hospital that might be responding to a request for an assessment, what they're looking for is that the client or person is currently a danger to themselves or others due to a psychiatric disorder, or currently gravely disabled due to mental psychiatric disorders. Sometimes what happens is that an incident may have occurred earlier and an individual may have calmed down, and then by the time the police or others come out there to assess, because they're not currently exhibiting a danger to themselves or others, they may decline at that time to take a person into a psychiatric hospital. So that's something to keep in mind. Initially, if you're find that you may have some mental health needs, you can call the Department of Mental Health hotline, which is right there. And what they'll do is do a phone assessment of the crisis. So they'll try and determine, is this an immediate need? Is it a crisis need? Do we need to send out a person, an evaluation team? So if you call that 800 number, that would be the best place to start as far as determining which level of help might be available to you. Also, the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a new line that's now available. And this one is part of a federal program, so it's all throughout the United States. But here in LA County, they're still putting together the 988 and the DMH side to be able to send out individuals. But for right now, what you're mostly getting is the crisis counseling and crisis assessment, and then possibly being sent over to the regular DMH line for an assessment. Now, typically, like I was saying before, a person will have some kind of health insurance, like LA Care. You have one program for physical health and a separate program for mental health. And these behavioral carve-outs are typically marked on the health insurer's card. So what the behavioral health carve-out is for is that they've identified a number of contractors that will accept a certain rate and will provide um, bills to the health entity to be able to get paid. Um, it's important if you're trying to get long-term counseling to work within your behavioral health carve-out contractor. Otherwise, you'll wind up paying a lot more than is necessary for behavioral health needs. In terms of evaluating needs, if you called Department of Mental Health directly, they would refer you to the best resource, which can range from outpatient therapy. And outpatient therapy is just individual counseling that you would typically get when you're not dealing with a crisis situation. They may see a need for inpatient therapy, and they may then recommend something that is closer to you. If they see that the situation is urgent but doesn't require an on-site response, they may say, go to the Behavioral Health Urgent Care Center, where they sometimes call it a BUC. That's what the BHUCC stands for. They're open 24 hours, 7 days a week. And like I said, can do a hold for up to 23 hours and 59 minutes. Or if things seem really difficult, they say, go to a psychiatric hospital. Now, depending upon the situation, they may send or recommend a SMART, MET, or PET team. And these are teams that involve both a mental health clinician along with law enforcement. Or in situations where it's very urgent, they'll say dial 911. So that way you get someone out right away. And then also they will look at evaluating for 5150 to see whether or not it seems like something where a person may need to be taken to a psychiatric hospital for an inpatient hold. So some of the options that are available depending upon the mental health need is a psychiatrist appointment that is urgent, which means that there's usually something medication oriented that needs to occur, or they may offer a same-day or 3-day therapist, which means that the therapist is supposed to respond within 3 days. And because of COVID still having the big impact on people being able to sit and meet with each other, the vast majority of therapy that occurs is over the phone or in some kind of Zoom or other type of televideo service that you are getting through either DMH or through one of the different providers. Everyone has their own secure system. Again, you could be referred to the BUC or referred to the psychiatric hospital or for intensive outpatient treatment or to dial 911. So what are some outpatient resources that are needed for mental health disorders? Well, if a person is high functioning, well, then that would often involve talk therapy with CBT or DBT components. That would be cognitive behavior therapy or dialectical behavior therapy. If there is a need for medication, a psychiatrist can prescribe medications for psychiatric diagnosis of behavior disorders. Will also want to do blood tests because they want to see the amount of medication that's getting absorbed. And they'll also want to look to see whether or not it's impacting other kinds of things in your system, like maybe your liver. And then also, if, say, for instance, an individual doesn't benefit from talk therapy, then there are ABA services, and applied behavior analysis services are there to assess for triggers, patterns, and interventions. So in all cases, you're always wanting to refer to your health plan for in-network resources so that you're not paying too much out of pocket. You can refer to DMH Access, that 800 number that was up there earlier, and they can also give you resources. Or you can refer to the Regional Center Service Coordinator, and they will give in-house resources such as the biobehavioral team. We have Dr. Fuz, who's a psychiatrist. We have telepsychiatry with Dr. Osman. We have a medication review clinic. We have a number of different things that other speakers will be talking about in a bit. And then also the service coordinator can refer to the clinical services department for a consult about what would work out best. So with DMH, the psychiatric hospitalization assessment, when DMH goes out, that LPS hold or Lanterman Petrus hold will carry to an LPS facility. So it's important that they go be the ones that write the hold in order to get it to a psychiatric facility. Otherwise, the hold can be moot. Say, for instance, a client goes into an emergency room. Most emergency rooms are not LPS designated. And what happens is that the doctor on call has the ability in that facility to be able to place a hold. But then when it comes time to be able to deal with moving from the emergency room to a psychiatric facility, that LPS hold will not follow that person. So the client, the individual or patient that's in the facility will have to actually go to another psychiatric facility to be able to be assessed to see whether or not they still meet the criteria to be able to be admitted under a 5150 hold. DMH, like I said, does have the SMART team, which is a system-wide mental health assessment response team, the MET team, and that is the LAPD mental evaluation team. There's the DMH access, and there are a variety of other acronyms that are related to other types of mental health and law enforcement, like Pasadena has their own mental health and law enforcement team that go out together. Now, behavioral health and Medi-Cal, the way to look at Department of Mental Health's responsibility is that they're considered to be a specialty mental health service. So as being a specialty mental health service, that means that they are available for providing services such as hospitalization or a crisis. As a person remains in crisis and begins to stabilize, they'll want to refer out to non-specialty counseling. So sometimes you'll find that you are working with Department of Mental Health therapists for a number of different reasons, and then as a client stabilizes, they'll want to refer out. And that is part of the specialty and non-specialty designations with Medi-Cal. The Behavioral Health Urgent Care Center, the closest one and the newest one is the one that is located in the City of Industry, and the address and phone number is there. Just so that you know, the Behavioral Health Urgent Care Centers do not provide a on-call service. So you have to go to them. So you have to drive to them. And then also they have a limited number of beds. So it's possible that they may not be available, but there are a number of behavioral health urgent care centers. There's also another one down by County USC. But they can provide, for instance, if you run out of medications, the ability to temporarily write a prescription and get you some medication. So it's good for, like you would go into a regular health urgent care, the same type of thing would apply to behavioral health urgent care center. For private health plans, we recommend calling for in-network assistance. They can then provide the psychiatrists or therapists that work within your private health plan. For autism spectrum disorder, if you're having problem behaviors, that's where things tend to work best using applied behavior analysis. And if that situation requires ABA, applied behavior analysis, and it's an ongoing urgent problem, then you'd want to consult with your regional center service coordinator and supervisor about institutional deeming or gap funding for services to prevent hospitalization or placement. And the reason for that is because typically it can take 4 to 10 weeks for a health plan to fund for ABA. So if you put in a request to your health plan, it can take several weeks for them to get an assessment person and then have the appointment set up for them to go out. Then it takes a week or two for them to go and assess. So they're trying to get a baseline of what's going on. And then to write up the report takes another week or longer. And then they submit it for funding to the plan that says, okay, we're going to allow this many plans. So in the meantime, that particular person that has problem behaviors and needs ABA services may have gone through a variety of different issues that may have led to a hospitalization or other kinds of things. So it's best to talk with the service coordinator to see what they can do to provide, like I said, some kind of gap funding or other kind of service in the meantime while you're waiting for that to come in place. This is the Behavioral Health Urgent Care Center in the City of Industry. It's in Service Area 3. That is the service area of Department of Mental Health for the San Gabriel Valley. There's 8 different service areas. Exodus Recovery is the other Behavioral Health Urgent Care Center. They're located across from County USC, and all the urgent care centers all do the same kind of thing, and they can take a person that needs care beyond 23 hours and 59 minutes and help them get into a regular psychiatric hospital where they can get a longer 72-hour, 14-day, or whatever length of stay they need in a psychiatric hospital. So that is the benefit of going there. But typically, a person that goes into the mental health urgent care center will have their situation resolved within 7 or 8 hours. So it's typically not a long-term kind of thing versus a psychiatric hospital, but it does allow you to at least get prescriptions, medicine, and get things solved at a lower level. Reimbursements in Medi-Cal, there's 36 psychiatric hospitals in LA County. And the thing to keep in mind is that there are freestanding hospitals, which means that they're not attached to a medical hospital. And if they are freestanding, then they are, in order for Medi-Cal to pay, the person that goes in has to be 65 years of age or over and under 21 years of age. Some examples of that would be Charter Hospital, College Hospital in Cerritos, BHC Alhambra, Ingleside Hospital, whereas a med-surg, which is a psychiatric hospital attached to a medical hospital, those are places like Glendale Adventist, Huntington Memorial, Intercommunity Community Medical Center, County USC Medical Center. And why is that a problem if you go to a non-funding hospital where you're not going to have the specialists that work in that area, and also they're not going to be able to bill Medi-Cal for that. Charter Oak is freestanding, it's detached, it's for Medi-Cal clients 65 and over and under 21. But what happens sometimes, and very frequently in our particular catchment area, is we'll still have clients that go in between 21 and 65. So you might have 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds in Charter Oak. And because there are an emergency LPS designated facility, they're not allowed to turn that person away, but they're not getting paid. They're having to use either some kind of indigent funds or some other way of getting in there. So that is something to keep in mind if you're not fitting the criteria for them to get paid, whether or not they are going to be inclined to want to admit a person. Intercommunity Hospital at Citrus Valley Medical Center, that is the med-surg because it is attached to a medical center. BHC Alhambra and Rosemead is freestanding. Again, mostly you're going to have adolescents or older adults in these facilities. Las Encinas Psychiatric Hospital in Pasadena, that's a freestanding one. So again, you're more likely to see 65 years older or under 21. If you have other types of private insurance, other types of insurance may pay for individuals that are in between those ages. Della Martin Psychiatric Hospital is also a med-surg. And then separately from all that is the DDMI wing at College Hospital. And that is the first dedicated private psychiatric hospital in the Western United States for people that have developmental disabilities and a mental illness and are behavioral problems. And there are 2 units. There's an adult unit for individuals that are 18 and over, and an adolescent unit, 13 to 17. The adolescent unit's primarily used by DCFS, although Kaiser and other insurance companies have access to this particular unit, but it's a special unit. College Hospital has two sides. There's the regular side for Medi-Cal, and then there's the DDMI wing side. And the unique feature of the DDMI wing side is that it has a team of 5 psychiatrists that are dedicated to just seeing regional center clients. Psychiatrists are seeing the patients daily. They have a medical internist that sees them. They do dental screenings for behavior. Sometimes an individual may have unusual behaviors because of a dental issue. They also have a nutritionist and a podiatrist because these individuals that tend to go there tend to stay there a longer period of time. So they have a podiatrist there to cut the toenails. The goals and lengths of stay are determined by the regional center as opposed to a regular generic psychiatric hospital. They have on-site pharmaceutical compounding, dispensary. They have video conferencing available. It's behavior analysis driven. So they have BCBAs there. They use something called picture exchange communication system. There's an evaluation for that. If a client needs it, it's available. They provide dialectical behavior therapy. They have an on-site school because some individuals are there for a very long time, so they're able to go to school by the ABC school district. It's also regional center friendly. And then this is what a typical PECS evaluation is. So if an individual is having communication difficulties and has not used a scheduling board, they will get training on using a scheduling board, or they will utilize the one that already exists. And that is an availability for individuals that I'm trying to stop my sharing. There we go. That is an availability to individuals that may have communication difficulties, and then it also helps just for taking a person through the different steps of what's needed on a daily basis inside of a psychiatric hospital. So I'm going to give it back to Hortensia to pass it on to whomever.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Mutan. I will get on from this point, and then Daniela will follow me. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen.
Just so everyone is aware, if you haven't already noticed, in the packet this month in the drive, both of these presentations, their PowerPoint slides are available as well.
Go ahead and move this forward. Okay, I hope everyone can see my screen now.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, good evening, Gigi, Madam President, and board members, community members. We're here tonight to talk about San Gabriel Pomona Regional Center's mental health resources, and I will get started. So first, I'd like to talk about what these clinics are, what they represent, why they were started, and how they help out. And Daniela will follow with sharing some success stories. So these are an internal resource for someone who is unable to access generic resources in the community through their health insurance, whether it be Medi-Cal, private health insurance. It doesn't matter what insurance coverage they have, or maybe they don't have any. This also serves as a second opinion. So in certain instances, it may be a layering of services. And then, so we're gonna get started here with the first clinic. As Dr. Mutan mentioned, we have our Biobehavioral Consultation Clinic, also for short, it's known as BBCC. This was created in 2004 to address the needs of those individuals that have complex healthcare needs, they're high risk for certain situations. They've either had psychiatric hospitalizations, also known as 5150s, or either they're at risk for losing their current living situation due to their behaviors, or maybe that has already occurred where they're having difficulties maintaining that current situation, that placement where they currently live. And we are trying to avoid more complications due to their behavior. And then maybe they've had 2 or more special incident reports within 1 year related to that behavior. Sometimes what happens is we have individuals who engage in different situations. They might get in trouble. Maybe they have been arrested or are at risk of getting arrested. And so we want to intervene before that happens, and that's part of the reason that they're referred to this clinic. And then what are the benefits? Internally inside the regional center, this clinic supports our service coordinators and the managers, the whole team that works with this individual. They provide guidance, and it serves as a proactive approach instead of being reactive. But we also have to consider that if something has already occurred, that we get in there and find out what can we do better? How can we assist? And then externally, it does support the individual, the family, legal guardian, vendors, providers, school district staff, anyone involved in their lives. And they provide guidance, again, that same proactive versus reactive approach, and then the advocacy. And what does that look like as far as that external approach? Think about it as if this individual is having issues at school or in the community, maybe this team needs to go out there and participate in their IEP meetings or go and observe while they're in the community. So that's what that means. And so this is a multidisciplinary team. We have Dr. Maduri. She's a developmental pediatrician, and she provides medication review. We have Joshua Trevino, he's a BCBA, and we have Daniela Santana, also BCBA. A licensed marriage and family therapist, LMFT, would usually be on this team, but currently that position is vacant. What do? They all have different roles. The developmental pediatrician would ask certain questions related to their medical needs, and the BCBAs would review their behavior plans and discuss certain things that no one else has that expertise on, like make recommendations for services with certain providers that specialize based on the needs that they have identified. And then the LMFT would review their mental health needs, diagnose and provide an assessment based on their health symptoms, and then review those behavior plans. And then what does the initial evaluation look like? Well, it's a 2-hour assessment. They use the person-centered thinking approach, and the participants involved, as mentioned previously, that can be the individual served, the service coordinator, parents, caretakers, service providers, and they're highly encouraged to attend, but it'll depend on the situation. So again, it's all dependent on what the needs are. And then what are the topics discussed at the first BBCC? Several things that are very important. There are regulations that protect confidentiality, so that's always discussed. And then what was the reason for referral? What has been attempted? What worked? What didn't? And then the primary symptoms, they ask them about how they're feeling, what changed, to try to identify what it is that triggered the situation, if anything can be identified. And then they take their developmental history, mental health history, medical history, and they do a behavioral inventory. They also discuss psychiatric and or behavioral services, and of course other relevant information. And then as far as the recommendations goes, that can vary, and it's very tailored to the individual. It can be anything ranging from changes in medication, additional services and supports, counseling, behavioral services, additional resources, maybe referrals to groups, wellness centers, drop-in centers, And then advocacy, of course, that's where maybe they have to go to, like I mentioned earlier, the IEP meeting and support them there and discuss what are the barriers that are interfering with them being successful in that environment. And so they do receive that team support to ensure that services and supports from all agencies involved are successful. And also they provide that support to the service coordinators. Sometimes we have new staff and it's very important for them to receive this type of support. And as far as the follow-up visits, usually they're 1 hour in length and sometimes they're scheduled every 6 months. However, I have seen them sooner. Sometimes if the individual is taking medication and they're adjusting and the team wants to know what that looks like in a few weeks, they may schedule them in a couple of weeks. They won't wait 3 months or 6 months. And then evaluation of the effectiveness of past recommendations, that's what's going to occur during those meetings, during those follow-ups. And then symptoms and medical side effects, that's like I mentioned, that's what's reviewed there. And as the individual's behavior and symptoms get better, they start weaning off from this program, from this clinic, and eventually they see them less and less until it gets to the point of maybe seeing them once a year and then discharge. And then here we have a visual of this chart, and this shows it's data taken from this period of time of 1 year. It's from August 1st of 2016 to August 31st of 2017. A total of 83 individuals were seen in this clinic. 21 individuals were successfully discharged from BBCC during that time that this data was collected. And then you'll see on the left, the numbers represent the number of individuals, and at the bottom, it represents BBCC sessions. And these are BBC sessions prior to discharge. So that varied. You can see one individual had 1 session. That's all that they required, right? That was easy support and get in and out. There were 2, it says here, 2 sessions. That was, 2 individuals. And then some required 10 sessions, other 4, let me see, I'm reading it correctly. 1 and then 2, almost, it's still 1, and then you have that other one in 2. But this just goes to show that they actually work. These clinics, they do make a difference for these individuals. And then next we have Medication Review Clinic. This clinic was specifically created to support our individuals served by addressing issues related to medication refusal and provide solutions and recommendations utilizing that same multidisciplinary approach. And medication refusal involves an individual not being interested in taking that medication or a prescribed therapeutic that they're just not interested. They refuse. We want to get in there and find out, okay, why is that happening? What is the reason? Does it make you feel uncomfortable? Does it give you a side effect? Maybe it makes you dizzy. Let's just have this team conversation with them. Very person-centered. The team members are a psychiatric pharmacist, a licensed marriage and family therapist, a BCBA, and a medical doctor. And then the medication review team provides assessment, recommendations, they track progress towards the outcomes, and they are addressing their health and safety needs. And some of the considerations always is to honor individuals' rights and choice, consideration of least to most level of restriction, including chemical restriction. So we're always going to consider that least amount of medication if possible, and that's where that conversation comes in, where the individual's included and they're asked, their families asked, how are they feeling? Are they very sleepy with this medication? Are they able to participate in their activities, their daily routine? Those are the things that are discussed there. And then lack of follow through on behalf of individual or the family served, and then challenging behavior that may reemerge. And next, I'm going to pass it on to Daniela Santana, our Director of Client Services, who's also a BCBA and has very much experience with the success stories. Daniela?
Thank you, Hortensia. Good evening, everyone. Great to be here. And I've truly, because of that, the BCBA certification I've been privileged to be able to attend, not so much so because of my current responsibilities, but more in the past. And yes, I've been privy to these, supporting these, both of these clinics. And I can tell you so many stories, but I'll focus on just two. This individual, you know, and when I was putting together this slide, and actually this is part of a presentation that Hortensia and I shared at DDS in Sacramento, well, obviously Sacramento, November, for a risk management symposium. So we were demonstrating to the audience what our regional center does in terms of risk mitigation for individuals served in terms of mental health. So this story just popped into my head because it was very compelling. Very challenging, a 15-year-old with a diagnosis of autism and ADHD. Unfortunately, he was exposed to inappropriate content, sexual content in school. Then the behaviors just took a turn to the worst. There were some challenges in the home. And I added there, if you see the second bullet, new service coordinator, and I actually had highlighted that in red because that was a big red flag for us. I do want to say that these clinics, they don't only support our families and benefit our families, they benefit our staff too, because you will not believe just the burden that our service coordinators carry because they want to help families, and sometimes they feel like they can't help them. So these clinics are available to provide that support and guidance, which is a great collaborative process. So this is what happened. The service coordinator referred this individual and their family to the BBCC, and we went ahead. You can move to the next slide, Hortensia. We went ahead with the interview, and some of the services at the time that they were already receiving, the individual was receiving included psychiatric care. They were receiving ABA, school district services, and mental health services. So we thought, well, where is the disconnect? Well, in fact, there was a disconnect. There was a big disconnect in terms of the family dynamics. The ABA was not working to the full potential. The school district was doing their own part. And in fact, I liked how Hortensia mentioned earlier that the BBCC team attends not only IEPs, but any other type of meeting where we can support the individual. So we went ahead as a team and attended the school district meeting. And this is where we started to see this improvement in terms of the collaboration that took place. You can go on to the next. Thank you. So what we went ahead and did is we, as a team, decided that we needed to place this individual in a 1 to 25 caseload. We wanted to have that additional focus in case management. We wanted to ensure that there was medication compliance. We recommended a social skills group. And I'm sorry, this is the clinical course. Hortensia, can you move to the other slide? Actually, the next one. Yes, so these were the recommendations from the committee. Medication management via Dr. Maduri and telepsychiatry. We wanted individual therapy because we wanted the individual to learn anger strategies, techniques, recommendations for parents to avoid escalation of behaviors. We found that a lot of times these situations occurred that were triggering the individual. Social skills, sexuality training, I mean, you could read it all. This individual actually participated for 2.5 years in BBCC. And then if you go back to the clinical course, yes. So then we also additionally placed in the 1 to 25 caseload. And when I looked up this case, I found that the incidence of physical aggression, hospitalizations, and inappropriate behaviors had reduced and some to zero, and was successfully attending high school. So this is definitely a success story. And what I tell people is that, we're not going to claim to cure people, but we're definitely there to help support and reduce that risk. Definitely this individual, the way he was headed towards was definitely not a good area. It was quite frankly a very scary situation, and I'm very happy to report that this is a success story. So next one, Hortensia. And this one is for a 55-year-old individual, and she started with medication review clinic actually, and for 1 year and 8 months, the initial concern was heightened paranoia, which resulted in many hospitalizations, psychiatric hospitalizations. She had difficulty with interpersonal relationships, and engaged in a variety of property destruction with her neighbors, police involvement, but what she communicated to the committee, to the medication review committee, was that the medication made her feel nauseous. So this is why some people, even us, we would refuse to avoid to take certain medication. So she felt that the medication was also used to control her. So she avoided this, and as a result, then her other behaviors then were out of control. Next slide. So the services she was receiving at the time included ILS, was receiving residential placement, but then moved on to supported living. She did receive CBEM and mental health services. The next one. Yes, so the recommendation for her was she began to make progress by managing her emotional episodes using the strategies that the team recommended, such coping skills, for example. And she never, go back to the other one. Thank you. She actually, 6 months after her initial evaluation, she relocated to a new apartment, and she's doing exceptionally well. When I interviewed Dr. Majuri about this case, she was very, very happy about her progress, that she indicated that she actually never resumed taking medication, but learned how to use coping skills and engaged in physical wellness to address her issues. So she's living successfully in a supported living residence. She prepares her own food, and she continues to follow the team's recommendations and follows her appointments and for mental health support. So these are just 2 examples. Again, we have many, but we're very happy to have these in-house support systems for, again, our families and for our service coordinators. It's very stressful to have a situation. It weighs heavy on your heart when you want to help someone, but you don't have the tools. Well, our staff is not alone. They have these clinics to support them in serving our individuals and families. And that's all.
Thank you, Daniela. I'm going to pass it on to Jesse Weller for a few words before passing it over to staff.
Thank you, team. Lots of information coming in, and I just want to say a couple thoughts as we talk about mental health. One, I think some people know this, but I do have a mental health background, so I identify as a clinician and also administrator here. And so the team is really highlighting an area super near and dear to my heart and to the team here when we talk about mental health. Mental health is not a new topic for regional centers. It's not a new topic for anybody. It's been always there it just hasn't got enough attention at times, and especially for my experience of working within the regional center system, sometimes mental health, when we talk about anxiety, when we talk about depression or mood disorders, or hearing voices or any kind of clinical diagnostic criteria for an individual, sometimes that gets minimized. Not always, but sometimes due to somebody's intellectual or developmental disability. So it's really hard working through all the systems because I think people know, and as parents and as caregivers, individuals, just because you have a disability, there's still components that people can experience of emotions and heartbreak and sadness and isolation. And we still feel even if we can't put words to it. And so my philosophy and the view is really being a partner in the mental health process. So sometimes there's language out there that regional centers are not mental health agencies. And that's true, we're not a mental health agency, but we are everyone's business for mental health. It takes a village. And for us to be talking and collaborating, Dr. Mouton did such a great job talking about how all of those components go in to treatment through seeking help. And it's a very complicated system. So if you think about trying to navigate, do I call this team? Do I call this crisis team? What about this insurance? What about here? It's something that takes a lot of resources and supports, and that is our job at this regional center, is to provide advocacy, information. The goal is to make sure that people know where to go to in moments of treatment and crisis and supports. So it really comes back to that holistic model. So some of the things that people ask sometimes is, what do we do? How do we know if there's mental health going on? And that's where it takes the team. So if you're noticing individuals that are not talking the way that they were before, sleeping in longer than they used to, not sleeping at all, eating too much, eating too little, if there are symptoms, there's cultural components. If you're feeling, sometimes people won't say I'm depressed, but will say my stomach hurts or my stomach feels empty. It just shows up differently for people. So if you're hearing these kind of things, it's always good to get a consult. And the other thing I want to recognize is the importance of connecting with medical professionals as well, those annual checkups, the physical health, because sometimes there's situations where it looks like depression, but it really could be maybe diabetes or low blood pressure or thyroid. So it's just, there's so many pieces. And so I think it really takes the medical perspective, it takes the psychology perspective, medications, and then treatment as needed, depending on the person's needs. And so just trying to pull the pieces together here. And I think most people can relate to either personally or people around us really experiencing an exacerbation of symptoms through the pandemic. Even for people that have really good coping skills and good support systems are still feeling effects from the pandemic. So I think it's timely, this conversation, but what you're seeing in the presentation tonight is talking about all of the supports and advocacy needed at mental health, working with Department of Mental Health, working with law enforcement, working with providers, educating people in our system, and then moving into what Hortensia was highlighting and Daniela around what we do internally in mental health and how do we address and talk about these. So just want to pull some of the pieces together here. I think it's an ongoing conversation that we need to have when we talk about mental health and wellness. I think should go with that word, mental health and wellness. So don't want to take too much time. I know we are trying to end by 8:55 or 9. So Hortensia, thank you for letting me get in there. I'll give it back to you, and maybe Sal has a closing part here for this evening.
Thank you so much, Jesse. That was very, very good information for everyone and putting all the pieces together. I'm sure everyone appreciates all that you provided as well. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Sal Gonzalez. He's our director of, I can't remember the new name. Jesse, maybe help me out here.
Service Access and Equity.
There you go. Thank you, Sal. You're on, Sal.
Well, good evening, board members, community members, and SGPRC staff. I'm going to share my screen real quick.
we can see it. Perhaps you can put it in play function, Sal.
There we go.
Thank you.
So again, my name is Sal Gonzalez, and I'm the Director of Service Access and Equity. We're really going to highlight the partnerships that we've been able to build with mental health agencies through our Service Access and Equity here in LA County. And one of the ones that we're very excited about is with LA Care and HealthNet, because as Dr. Mouton, as Jesse mentioned, you have to work with your medical team as well. So one of the things that we're doing is we're having LA Care come, as well as HealthNet, come to our agency, not only to provide trainings to our staff on how to access these type of services and supports for the individuals we serve, but also providing trainings to our community. And actually, LA Care has a monthly check-in in our regional center. So any family that we serve, any individual that we serve, could actually make an appointment, and LA Care is here to help you navigate through that type of request. So this is something we're very excited about, and we'll continue this in this year of 2023. One of the things that we're also doing is working with LA County Department of Mental Health. And one of the things that we did in the fall, we provided a 6-week workshop training for our families and our staff. These trainings were provided in languages such as English, American Sign Language, Spanish, Chinese, and Korean. And we're very excited because we've already basically confirmed our next training, which is going to be beginning in April 4th with Department of Mental Health. And again, this is going to be a 6-week workshop. This will be starting at 4 p.m. Our first training, again, will be on April 4th. The neat part about the 4 p.m. is because we're trying to really figure out what's a good time for our families. So with collaboration, we kind of figured that 4 p.m. might be something good for our families. And the other part is that, again, we're going to be providing these workshops in the languages of English, American Sign Language, Spanish, Chinese. This time we're going to be able to do Vietnamese as well as Korean. Another thing that we're doing in regards to the trainings, these are the trainings that we're going to be highlighting. And the first one is going to be the mental health and stigma, changing the story. The second training will be on family violence prevention and resilience. The third training will be on child abuse prevention and resilience. And then we're going to cap off the month of April with positive parenting, understanding learning disability of autism and ADHD. And then we'll conclude in the month of May with positive parenting, understanding anxiety and depression, and of course the grief and loss and resilience, something that for our adult departments, it's something that they've been very adamant about for us providing these trainings. So we're very excited about this. We had good turnouts. I know we had some people here that I see in the screens attend some of these. So we're very excited about what's to come in this year. Other things that we're also working with in regards to partnerships with mental health agencies, we're working with Foothill Family Services. We're actually working with them as a collaborative group through our First Five. And one of the things, Foothill Family provides a lot of counseling and a lot of support. So we're very excited about that. And we feel that we're kind of being able to help some of these families that are probably have not been diagnosed but are receiving the counseling services, that we could kind of be a bridge to come back through our intake process, and vice versa, us helping them in regards to how to access the services if they're being served by us. Another entity that we're working with, as well as Alma Family Services. Alma Family Services is one of our parent mentor initiatives, but as well provides a lot of counseling in regards to our community. And then the last one that is going to be, we're going to be providing trainings to them, as well as they're going to be providing trainings to our staff, is how to access specific clinics. As you know, they work a lot with our Asian community. So we're very excited about this partnership that we've just started with them. And again, these are agencies that have been and will be part of our catchment area and have been serving our catchment area for many years. But we're very excited to really bring them to the forefront, as Jesse mentioned, in regards to knowing who they are, what they're here for, but most importantly is making sure that our families are not receiving this type of information on how to access the services that we do offer here in LA County. So that brings me to my conclusion. I did put my actual direct number. I did provide my email. So if any of you community members, board members have any questions regarding this information, please don't hesitate to call me, and I'll be more than happy to continue to share any type of information you might need. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you, everybody. This was a very comprehensive presentation with lots of information. And as I noted, the PowerPoint slides are in the Google, the Drive for the Regional Center board meetings. There were some comments in the chat. I believe they were already all addressed, but if there are other comments or questions, we'll take them now from anybody who's in the meeting. Hearing and seeing none, I think the presentations were so comprehensive, we got a lot of information. So thank you to all of our presenters this evening. We're now at the announcement stage. Are there any other community announcements or board announcements before we move on to closed session? I see Susan, I see your hand.
I'll keep this very brief, but the vendors are really seeing the need to advocate strongly with legislators, especially with the budget shortfall around the corner that could be affecting budgets. And at every subcommittee meeting I've been to, all the vendors are losing sleep, talking about anxiety over not having enough staff to serve the clients that they have now. And then we have a whole new group of people graduating who are going to be needing services, and there aren't enough staff available. So we really want to start advocating more with the legislators. And we have a meeting on the 28th, which is next Tuesday at 10 o'clock. We would really love the legislative committee and also the committee for individuals served to participate with us, either through attending the meeting, or if you're not able to, maybe giving us a couple minutes at your meeting to talk about our efforts, because it's your individual stories that are going to matter the most to legislators. So we really want to have your involvement in that as well. So if anybody, I'll put my email in the chat, and if anyone would like the link to that meeting, I'd be happy to provide that for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. And we'd love it if you'd attend the Committee for Individuals Served and Their Families, in the upcoming month, which is just immediately precursing this meeting. And then the third Wednesday at 6 p.m., the Legislative Community Relations meeting is at 6 p.m. also on Zoom. If you or any other vendors would attend and talk a bit about what you're doing, I think it would be absolutely critical. And y'all know that we do have grassroots virtually coming up, and Yvonne can provide information as well. But I do want to underscore the needs that the vendors have. I've heard from a lot of vendors informally about there's no shortage of referrals, but they don't have staff to cover. And that's really, really challenging because individuals need a lot of support services and direct services that the vendors provide so eloquently. So thank you for attending this evening, and thank you for engaging in this effort in any way we can help. We're happy to do that. Mary, I see your hand as well. Was that on purpose? You're muted.
Okay, there you go.
Gigi, did you want me to attend Grassroots Day or?
Yvonne will be handling that. It's going to be on Zoom, but I think Yvonne's in the meeting, so she can reach out to you as well, Mary. But thank you so much for offering.
Okay, because I've done it before, so.
Sure, of course. Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or announcements before we adjourn to executive session? Hearing and seeing none, thank you all for coming. We're going to have a closed session for just a very brief time period. So if you are not a board member, and thank you, Dr. Mouton, I saw your message. It's time for you to exit. If you're a board member, please stay on.